Morning and welcome to the Newport News Church of Christ. We're happy that you're here with us and for our Bible study. This morning, we'll continue with the life of Christ in Luke chapter 12 is where we'll be doing our study today. And so we hope that you'll sit back and tune in to our lesson this morning in Luke chapter 12. All right, this morning we're dealing with, continue with the Judean ministry. We're in Luke chapter 12 in our text. And so, Taurus, if you put up our lesson, if you see our lesson, this is part 6 of the Judean ministry period of the life of Christ. And so our lesson this morning is, are you ready? Are you ready? One of the paramount things that we look for that should be on our hearts and minds in our Christian walk is being ready and being prepared for the Lord. And so that is, we'll look at that in the text today. And the question, are you ready? A lot of times, readiness is a part of everything we do. When those of us who have been in the military understand readiness, being ready to deploy, being ready to go on our missions and to travel. At work, you have to be ready for whatever your job asks you to do. In our academics, is being ready. We get students ready. We teach them units, and then hopefully prepare them to be ready to take tests and to take assessments over that to show that they have at least some mastery or understanding of those knowledges. So readiness is a part of everything we do, getting ready to do something, getting prepared so that we can fulfill it when it comes time to do it. One of the things we learn as children growing up in homes is to be ready or to get ready. A lot of times parents and mothers would ask, would have to come back to pick you up, and you would be at home, and they may had a limited time. They may have been leaving work or coming home to get you or coming from some other place, and time was critical to pick you up and then yet get to where you had to go. And so they would ask you to be ready, to be prepared. And sometimes we failed that test because sometimes your parents would come back and they would let you know, hey, be ready. We're not coming in. We're going to be in the car. We're going to honk the horn a couple of times, and we expect you to come running out, get in the car so we can go. But sometimes we weren't ready. Sometimes we were watching TV or we were playing with our toys or doing something else, and we didn't hear when our mother, our father would come to pick us up. And so then they would be upset because now they would have to come in and actually find you and say, hey, I'm out here. I'm ready. I'm waiting for you to go. And then the question, well, how come you wasn't ready? Well, in our minds, we were like, well, we was ready. But see, we didn't have the clear definition of being ready. We was ready, but we was back in our rooms doing something else. And so we didn't understand that ready meant that not only were you prepared to go, that you was dressed, you had your coat, you had your shoes on, but that you was ready and you was waiting in a place so that when they arrived, and that you could just go right out. We was ready, but we was in the house doing something else and running around. So when they came, we wasn't ready to walk out and get in the car and go with them. So as far as our definition and our parents' definitions of ready was two different things. So that's one thing we learned as kids. So a lot of correction will go into what it means to be ready. It means to be not only prepared to go, but waiting. Some other times we would be waiting, but wouldn't be ready. You be sitting there, waiting for your parents to come. You sitting there looking at the door, but then as soon as you pull up, then it seems like when you're ready to go, everybody go, oh, hold it. I got to go to the bathroom. Hold up. I got to go back and get my jacket. So you was waiting. You was sitting there looking for them. But then as soon as they come out, you wasn't ready to walk out the door, because as soon as they pulled up, then you decide you got to go to the bathroom. You got to go get a jacket. So we know that ready, and there's two things. There's not only being ready to depart, ready to go, but also waiting, meaning having everything prepared so that when they came, you were just able to walk right out. So we look at Jesus teaching today on being ready. In this lesson, Jesus was stressing this very thing. We're in Luke chapter 12. Remember, he's talking to thousands of people. And our last lesson was about how we're going to lay up treasures in heaven instead of here on earth, and how are we to be rich towards God. This whole thing started last week. Brother Chris Mack was talking about, he in the beginning of Luke chapter 12, he's warning them about beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, beware of their hypocrisy. Then he moved in and he started talking about laying up treasures, because in the middle of that course where he was talking to the people about beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and their hypocrisy, then somebody interjected and asked a question, Lord, will you come and help my brother to give me part of the inheritance? And then Jesus responded, man, who made me a divider or a judge over you? So then Jesus took that opportunity and that question to deal with laying up treasures in heaven, something he had already discussed in the Sermon on the Mount. And so now after that, we transition into today's lesson where Jesus is, after he talked about laying up treasures in heaven instead of here on earth, and how we to be rich towards God. He tells the parable of the foolish farmer and how he laid up, how he was going to build bigger barns and just relax and kick back and enjoy all that he laid up, but he was not rich toward God. So now then Jesus transitioned into a new topic, and that's being prepared for his return. This is the second time he's going to introduce this. The first time is in Matthew 12, 16 or chapter 16, I believe. And so the key verse here is Luke 12 and 40. You too be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour that you do not expect. And so as Jesus talks about being ready and be prepared, he's going to do it. The scriptures talks about, mentions these as parables, but they're really 4 illustrations that Jesus is going to give us on being ready. So we'll look at the first one, and our first text is Luke chapter 12, verses 35 through 38. Luke chapter 12, verses 35 through 38, where Jesus is going to talk about being watchful. This is just right after he said in verse 34, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Now, in verse 35, he says, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning. And ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you that he shall gird himself, and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. All right, so there's a lot of imagery, a lot of things in here that we need to unpack and help you with this. This sounds a lot like Matthew 25. In Matthew chapter 25, we have the illustration of the 5 foolish virgins and the 5 wise bridesmaids, and how they were waiting outside for the bridegroom to come. So in that Jewish tradition, and we could look at Jewish marriages, the most important person in the Jewish wedding is who? The bride or the groom? Groom's the most important person. We in our American Westernized, we've made her the bride. She's the one with the dress and everything fancy and everything goes her. But in that custom, it was the groom. The groom would come, make the proposal, make the engagement, make the betrothal, make with the father, hey, this is in different cultures, the father, okay, this is what I'm going to require. This is the diary. This is what you got to bring. You got to bring some herds. You got to bring some gifts. This is what you're going to give as the price. And as we see that illustration with Jesus, as he loved and he purchased the church. Well, when you would go to get your bride, you bring something to that family. You bring he wants some camels, he wants some sheep, he wants some this and that you're gonna, for that bride that you're gonna come get. So that all that arrangements be made. So then once that was agreed to, then the groom would go away and begin to make preparations. He would go to and so that's what we get Jesus say, in my Father's house, because the groom would go home and enlarge his father's house, add another room onto his father's house to make room for his wife, who he's going to bring back. So he would go get that all prepared, make the provisions, enlarge his father's house, provide a room so that when he can come, he would have his bride. And then, during that time, while the groom is making preparations, what's the bride doing? Getting prepared, getting ready to go. That's when her mama start. We have the hope chest. Back in the day, they used to have a hope chest. When you leave the homes, you don't do that no more. Everybody looking at me with a blank look. When you left home, there's a hope chest. And your mama would have, they make blankets and they quilted and they would make you blankets. So you'd have blankets for your house and they would have sheets and linens and they would put towels in the chest for you. Then there would be some cookware and you have a cast iron skillet, whatever you need. So that young lady could go home and establish and set up her house and make her house a home. Mama would help her begin to gather those things and pack them things already so that bride, when the groom came, that bride be ready to go. Not when he came, let's start getting things together. No, while the groom was away, getting prepared, enlarging his father's house. Like Jesus said, in my father's house are many mansions. He's gone to prepare it for us because we are the bride. We are the bride, the church that he's purchased. He's already purchased it. How did he purchase it? With his own blood on Calvary. Then now he's gone away. He told his disciples, I go to prepare a place for you, John chapter 14. Now he's going to come back. He's getting that ready. The mansion's ready. Now he's going to come back. He's going to get the bride. He's going to take us. And so like in this illustration, we don't know when he's coming. And in that time, in the Jewish time, you wouldn't know when the groom was going to come. So they would wait. And at night they would light their lamp. They would, after a period of time, the groom might send word that, hey, he's on the way. But still you wouldn't know when he was coming. He would take a different path. He would come at a different time. Why? Because he's not the only one that wants that bride. There might have been some other rivals, some other suitors that might have wanted that bride and wanted that young lady. And so he would make sure he would come at a time unannounced so that nobody would lay in wait and hijack him and keep him from getting there to get his groom, to get his bride. So to be announced that he's coming, everybody get ready. People would light the path and be ready so they could open the door and they would begin the wedding feast. And so then the groom would come at an unannounced time, and then they would open the door. They would light the way for him. He would come with his parents and his wedding party. He would come. Then they would open the door and they would have the feast and make merriment. So have some of that. So that's kind of the background of some of those things during that time period. Here, yes. Yeah, so they could have light. So because that groom would come at night, they would be outside and they would light the path for him and his party as they would come and enter into to have the festival and have the dinner and have the wedding and all of that. So, well, yes, in that particular illustration in Matthew 25, those they didn't have enough provisions to light their oil, so they ran out. So they would ask the virgins, like, can you give us? And they go, no, we can't give you some of our oil, because if we give you some of our oil, then we'll be out, and then nobody will be here to light the way. And so like in the middle of the night, where you gonna get oil in the middle of the night? All the shops and merchants were closed. So that's teaching another lesson on preparedness and being ready, that they didn't have enough so that they could light their oils and have enough to wait to be able to have oil in their lamps when the bridegroom came, because you didn't know when the bridegroom was coming. And so here now, Jesus, in this lesson, Jesus talks about, and you yourselves like unto men that wait for your Lord, their Lord, when he will return. Now this is, in this instance, the Lord is returning from a wedding. He's coming back home to his home, and when he cometh and knocketh, that you may open. And so in this illustration, you're the servant in the house. He's talking about the servants that are serving in the house. Their master has gone to a wedding, and so he's gone to a feast festival. You don't know when he's coming back. And so now Jesus is talking about that you need to be ready like a servant in the house, waiting for your master's return. You don't know when he's coming back home, but you're waiting for your master's return. And so in this lesson, servants were to be ready for their master's return, even if they didn't know when it would be. Servants, they would have the house ready and they'd be there. They'd be waiting by the door. So when the master returned, they can open up the door and welcome him back into the house. Now, what is meant by the saying the master would dress and serve his servants? Now, in that time, those people couldn't imagine this, that, the master was always the one that was being served. They understood slavery in this time. Slavery was quite prominent. The Romans had them, servants and slaves. People that brought back as prisoners of war were servants and whatnot. And so the servant, who would be served all the time? The master. master at his beck and call whenever he wants something, his servants. And during that time, did it make a difference? Were there any work hours like the master only requires service from 8 to 5? No, master requires service 24/7. If you wake up in the middle of the night, I want something, guess what? There better be the servant outside the door to come in and like, yes, master, what do you need? You need some water, you need this, that. So yeah, service was around the clock. The master leaves, you better be there waiting on him when he gets back. You don't know when he's coming, but you have to be ready for him. But in this situation, Jesus says, blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you that he shall gird himself up and make them to sit down and bring meat and will come forth and serve them. So in this case, Jesus is saying that those who are faithful servants who are ready when the Lord comes, in this case, they won't be required to serve the master. What's the master going to do? He's going to serve them. He's going to gird himself up and he will serve them. So this was like mind-blowing because that didn't happen that day, that the master would serve anybody or that the master would be expected to serve anybody. It never happened. It did with Jesus. Did Jesus do it? John chapter 13, Jesus did do it. After he had a supper with his disciples, he washed their feet, he refreshed them, and he put on a towel. He girded himself up and served them. And Peter and them had a problem. He said, no, Lord, you ain't going to do this. You're the master. You're the rabbi. You're the master. We should do this for you. And Jesus said, Peter, if you don't let me do this, you don't have no part of me. I've got to do this because he was showing them that, what I'm doing to you, you're going to love others. This is how all men are going to know you my disciples because of the love, because you're willing to take a lower position. You're willing to stoop down. You're willing to serve. Service is going to be the thing that epitomizes our relationship and epitomizes who we are as Christians, not because we get in the position of privilege and demand that everything come to us, but that we're willing, even though we might deserve it and have a right to have it, but we're willing to lower ourselves and humble ourselves and to serve and to be servants of others. And this was a distinguishing mark that Jesus wanted his disciples to be able to show the world that we would be willing to serve. Jesus said, if you want to be great, whoever wants to be great among you, let him be what? Let him be a servant. Let him be a servant. Showing that service is great. But here in this example, servants had to be waiting for their Lord to return. But he said, blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. All right. So, and he's teaching us watching. We are the Lord's servants, and we are to be what? Watching. Watching. We're waiting. We're ready. We're prepared. We keep our robes white. We keep our lives together. So what? Because we don't know when he's coming back. When he comes back, that ain't the time to get. That ain't the time, if you, they say, if you're ready, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. When the Lord comes, when you get on your deathbed, that is the time to start thinking about. Now, we know a lot of people do that, but not for us, the child of God, because what? We're always thinking about that. What we're doing with our life. We're every day thinking about that. And every day we're trying to keep ourselves in a position where we can be ready to go. Because what? We know not the minute, the hour when the Son of Man comes, but we don't know the minute, the hour when what? It's appointed unto man wants to die after that the judgment, Hebrews 9:17. So we don't know what our appointment with death is. And because we don't know that, we've got to watch and be prepared because we don't know from minute to next. How many times have we woke up and heard stories where people got up, that day, they were gone. They were gone. Sometimes tragic circumstances, sometimes they just went, something happened. Sometimes they just fell sick, didn't know they had something, all kinds of miracles that come. So we are different. We have to be ready. We don't worry. We don't get to that end and then start thinking about it. Because we know the Lord, we think about these things now and we make preparations to be ready. So, yes. Mm-hmm. 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 He made a choice. He made a choice that he wasn't gonna go, and yeah, that would be something that the Lord came while we at church. And I've heard preachers preach lessons like, where do you want the Lord to find you? Where you want the Lord to find you? Do you want to be found? Would you want the Lord to find you in church, worshiping and being with the brothers and being with the saints? Or do you want the Lord to find you at your desk? It's Sunday. You know, you should be at worship and you at your desk still do a number. We can go through a number of places and situations. You know, where do you want the Lord to find you? Want the Lord to find you still in the bed sleep when the saints are meeting and when Bible class is going on, you still in the bed sleep? Where do you want the Lord to find you when you go? What do you want? You know, we love those stories where, you know, there's some people that died hurt, but they died saving somebody. Man, they died helping somebody. They were pulling somebody out the car. The man drowned trying to save another life. Oh, those are a beautiful story. That's a beautiful legacy. Police officer, she died in action. She was doing her job. Fireman was trying to pull somebody out, rescue, got caught in the fire. It's tragic and it's sad, but what? They were doing what they were supposed to do. 9/11, a lot of people, while people was running out of those burning buildings, what? There were a lot of fire guys doing what? Running up them stairs with fire hose, trying to rescue. And unfortunately, some of them died and succumbed. But what? The fire, this is our job. When people run away from stuff, we run to it, rerun up it. And they would do it 1,000 times because that's what they're called to do, to go up in that building and try to save lives. And unfortunately, they know that death and that losing a firefighter, losing a brother or sister firefighter is part of the calling. It's a part of it. Please know it's part of the calling because that's what you signed up for, to do that. You're supposed to go toward it. You're supposed to go in and try to save. And so, yeah, where do we want to be found when the Lord comes back? So yeah, we look at that in verse 37. The Lord is going to be the servant here. For those who are found watching, the Lord is going to be the servant. And so now, like we say, they wouldn't understand that. You know, what master would actually serve his servants? You know, in this world, do people in high positions, do we find them being servants? Sometimes you do, but the typical people that are in position always want to be served. They feel like they deserve it. They've earned that spot. But in this case, the master would actually be the servant. This is referencing the greatest truth that Jesus will reward everyone who is ready for his return. Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Will Jesus find us watching when we come back? Will he find us watching? Or will we be watching TV? Or we'll be watching something else, or watching football games and all that stuff. That where Jesus is going to find us? Or will he find us watching and ready for his return? All right, so we don't want to get caught up too long on that one. We go to the next little illustration, next parable, and we look at the thief in the night, verse 39 and 40. And this know that if the good men of the house had known what hour the thief would come, washed and not have suffered his house to be broken through. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when you think not. So his second illustration is like, you know, if you knew when a thief was going to break in your house, guess what? You'd be sitting there right there like, don't do it. I wouldn't do that if I was you. When he come through the window, you'd be sitting right there. There's a story about a man the thief tried to break in this old lady's house, and he was trying to come through there, and she said, "Stop, Acts 2:38." He said, "What? Stop, Acts 2:38." So the police pick him up. They said, "Man, this was a little old lady. What you stop for? She wasn't gonna do nothing to you. Why'd you not try to rob her?" He said, "The lady said she had an axe and 238s." Didn't know nothing about scripture. The lady said she had an axe and 238. So she was waiting for this thief, and he was scared. But we don't, and so because we don't know when the thief is going to break through, and still, what do we have at our house? We have Brinks and ADT we got a ring. Now we at work. We can answer the doorbell. Yes. Who is it? What do you want? Drop the home. We talking to somebody. We at work. We can pick up our phone and see who's at our doorbell. We can talk to them and you know, somebody knocking the door. We can talk to them now. So we give the illusion they don't know whether we in there or we someplace else because we can talk to them. You know, I can open my garage door. I can close it. I can look and see, oh, my garage is open. I can close it from far away. I can open, somebody let me in and close it back down. We can do all these kind of things. So we have all these systems to watch for us because we're not home all the time and we know things might happen. So we have these things. And even at that, if somebody wants something bad enough, can they get it? Thieves have those who are true thieves and true professionals. They stay up day and night and work on ways to thwart our system. And if somebody is willing to devote that much time, take it. You have it. Take it. Because if I can keep building up, because you'll never build up enough the forces and defenses to stop everybody. We have enough stuff, Brother Mac, to stop the reasonable criminal who's just the basic criminal is just looking for a quick smash and grab, something quick and go. He's not usually that planned out. The opportunists, they take advantage of opportunities. They're not planned out. Planned out criminals are doing, they're using their masterminds to plan big things. They trying to take paintings and $1 million stuff. They ain't trying to get my little TV and VCR. That's them, somebody who's really a mastermind. These guys are opportunists, quick grab. What can I grab? Because time is their enemy. In, out. Can I get in, out, grab as much as I can, go? So I have enough stuff to reasonably stop that level of intrusion in the house. I'm not trying to secure Fort Knox because Jesus said, what? My treasures are not down here. If you want it bad enough and you bad enough to take it, God bless you. Take it. I'll call Farmers Insurance and put a claim out and get some new stuff. You want to take my car? God bless you. Take it. If they find it, I did. This life, this stuff is temporal. I got insurance. I have stuff to cover those things. I ain't worrying about those things. I'm not, losing sleep over those things. If somebody's bad enough and willing enough to take it, you can have it. Go on with it. Maybe they'll bless you with it. Maybe they'll help you out. But I'm not going to stress over those things. But we have enough things in our house to reasonably ward off of those type of things. But in illustration, Jesus said, if you know somebody's going to break in, if the thief left a little note on your door, hey, Gwen, I will be breaking by in your house between 12 and 1:30 a.m. on the 15th. Gwen, okay, I'm going to be home. Gwen goes like, come on. I'm ready for you. Come on, Mr. Thief. I'm going to be there. The thief don't come and make an appointment. Yes, Mr. Mack, I'd like to break in your house tomorrow night. About that time, is that a good time for you? All right, we'll see you then. They don't do that. They try to study your patterns and try to get there when you're not there. That's why he's a thief. Because what? Thief, Jesus said, a thief comes what? To steal and to rob. So they coming when you're not expecting them. And so the Lord's illustration is, I'm going to be the thief in the night. I'm coming when you least expect it. So what's his message to us? Expect it. Be ready. That's the thing, those of us that build in the military, the thing about defense is defense. Do we have defense just when we expect attack? No. Defense, your greatest defense is to be there when you're not expecting attack. You got to anticipate when our adversaries think we're asleep. George Washington crossed the Delaware River and caught the other side because it was the holidays and they was in there drunk and had been up. He caught him. He snuck across the water and caught them what? Off guard. Caught them off guard. So your greatest time to catch your adversary is when he's not expecting it. And so Jesus is saying for us as Christians, we got to live every day like today's the day. Do you think about that? Do you wake up in the morning like today's the day? He could come today. We don't normally think about that. We get up like we got to get to school, we got to get to work, we got to go. But you should think of like today could be it. Either it's the day he's coming or it could be the day I die. That's not The world might think that's morbid. That's not morbid. That's book. Jesus said, be ready and to watch because you don't know when I'm coming. So we need to get up with the thought that the day could be it. Could be the day I die. Could be the day that the Lord comes back. Yes, Sister Irvin. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, that's your first. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Certainly. Certainly. We certainly do that. But that should cross our mind because he said he'll come like the night. That's an expression. Yeah, night is usually when, Jesus said, I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day, because night come, no man shall work. But while we're sleeping, who's working? Criminals working. While we sleep, they're working. So, but that's just night is figuratively that, usually daytime we shut down, activity shut down. We're at home, we're quiet, we're going to sleep, but the thief can come in the daytime. A lot of these thieves do. They come in broad daylight while you're at work. The porchers coming and taking packages, off your porch that you had as you to get your mail. Man, you could get a package and leave it. It could stay there a week. Your neighbors know who you are. They wouldn't touch it. Anybody touch your package? Not anymore. You better get it in. You better tell, hey, look, if you see my package, go tell your neighbor, go get it for me. You better get home. And I see it. I can see it. I get a message when it pops up. Yeah, you just had a package delivered. I look, okay, it's there. So that's not the day to go shopping. You better go by the house first, secure your package, then go run your errand. So, the thieves come in the daytime. That they don't wait till the night. Because they know, hey, you often at work. That's the best time to come is in the daytime. So the thief comes whenever, as somebody said, opportunity, they feel the opportunity is greatest for them to catch you off guard. So Jesus is saying, hey, that we need to be ready because it's just like a thief comes in the night. He doesn't announce, you be sitting there waiting for him. Is the Lord going to announce when he's coming back? Hey, world, I'm coming back. So that's why it's false when you see people with announcement. The Lord is coming back on this day. And that day comes and it goes and the Lord hadn't come back. If Jesus said, who knows? Jesus don't even know. Who only knows? Jesus sitting on the right, he don't know. The angels don't even know. They up there in heaven. They don't know. Jesus don't know. The Father knows on his time schedule. Jesus don't know, but what Jesus is doing is pleading for us. Father, give him some more time. He's with us for the Father to be patient and merciful and to give us as much time possible. But even the Lord doesn't know when he's coming. So Jesus messaged us to be ready. We get at the next illustration, the parable of the wise steward, verse 41 through 46. Then Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this parable unto us or even to all? In other words, there's a lot of people there, but then there's the disciples. So Peter, as a spokesman for the other 12, is saying, Lord, is that to us? Just to us? Are you talking to us? Or are you talking to all of us out here? That's what Jesus has to say. And the Lord said, who then that wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Of a truth I say unto you, he will make ruler over all that he hath. But and if that servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall eat the men servants and the maidens, and to eat and drink, and to be drunken, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him asunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. Okay, so illustration. The Lord is saying, blessed is the servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find him doing so. I talk about the faithful servant whom his Lord shall make ruler. So a Lord makes a ruler servant. He's responsible for the other servants. While that Lord is gone, the one that he puts in charge is responsible to see that the others that their meat and that they're provided for, that they eat and that they're taken care of in place of master. All right. So blessed is that servant, the faithful servant, when his Lord returns, finds him what doing so. Doing what? Taking care of the other servants. But in this scenario, what if that servant in his heart says, oh man, master's gone. I'm gonna kick back, I'm gonna eat and drink. And then he gets vicious and starts beating the other man's servants and taking advantage of the maid servants. And then the Lord, then it said, Lord's gonna come back when that servant don't expect it. And then he's going to cut him asunder, meaning cut asunder means you're going to be whipped with many stripes. Cut asunder, you ever seen somebody's back been cut with whips marks? That's what it's going to happen. He's going to cut him asunder with whips. Then he will take his portion and give it to the others. So here, in this answer, Jesus was making a clear point on what it means to be ready and prepared. If the servant was faithfully fulfilling his responsibilities when his master returned, Jesus said he would be rewarded. So Jesus said, if we're doing what the master, Jesus, has said and the Lord God has said for us, we will be rewarded. If he returns, find us what? So doing. When the Lord returns, he shall find us what? Doing his will, serving, taking care of his people, taking care of those that we can take care of, then we'll be rewarded. But if the servant was abusing his authority, Jesus said he would be severely punished. He will cut him in pieces. All right. So the basics of this is with privilege comes responsibility. And the more privilege you have, that master who had the privilege of overseeing for the rest of them, he had a greater responsibility. When the Lord comes back, should find him what? Fulfilling that responsibility. How many of you, who's the oldest in this house? Who's the oldest child in your family? The oldest. Oh, who's the older? Since Mac, you oldest. All right. So because being the oldest, and I know because we've talked, you feel the weight of the greater responsibility. The greater responsibility, having to, take care. I'm the oldest in my family, so I felt that greater weight of the greater responsibility. My mom would call me, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. And then you tell your sister to do this, and this. And guess what? Them younger siblings, when you come tell them, hey, mom said do this. Well, I ain't taking no orders from you. You ain't mama. And say, okay. They do that one time, and then when you come home and say, mama, I told them what you told me to tell them to do, but they said they weren't listening to me. And my mom said, oh, really? Okay, let me go handle that. Next time, when he tells you, I told you to do something, okay, we'll do it. See? Now, if I go and do something and have them doing some crazy stuff, then when they come back, mama, he was doing this and doing that. Guess who gets the punishment? Because what? I have the greater responsibility. They left me in charge. So 5 minutes run around teasing my sisters and frustrating them, I get the greater punishment. But if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I gave them the lawful instructions to take care of some things and they don't do it, then they would get punished. So Jesus is telling us another example of being ready, that we'll receive greater punishment if he don't come back, the master, and find us doing what we're supposed to do. This last teaching on being prepared comes from, and so in other words, we'll get to this, whom did this apply to? Let's look at Luke 12, 47 and 48. 47, 48. And that servant which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself according to his will shall be beaten with many stripes. But he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required. And to whom and to whom men have committed much, of him will they add more. Again, that's the whole point. More responsibility, more privilege, more responsibility. You have a greater privilege, guess what? You have a greater responsibility. So as the oldest in the family, you have greater privilege, you have the greater responsibility. If you come back and you're not found doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to receive a greater punishment than those who maybe didn't know and didn't do. They will still be as you who have the greater privilege. Is there a difference between those who have been given opportunities to understand God's will and those who maybe have not had as many privileges? Yeah. There's, for those, the scripture said those who've had greater opportunity and see, and we don't know. So we can't make those judgments. We can just teach the word, but God will know. And a lot of times people have problems with, well, what about my mama? Only God knows what they had and what opportunities they may have had in their day. He's a merciful, that's all we can tell. He's a merciful God. He knows if they had opportunities, if they truly had the opportunities to hear and obey, and he will hold them accountable for what they knew and what they didn't know. If they didn't know, only God can know that and reward them according to what they did and what they didn't do. But people use those excuses, but it don't take the responsibility off of you. I don't know what your dad knew that, but I'm telling you now, you have a time to know and an opportunity to know. So you should make every opportunity to know what you need to do in response to God, and let God deal with those who've gone on, big mama and grandmama, those who died. Because do you have a heaven or hell to save them in? You can't save them. You can't condemn them. And whatever they've done, and God who will judge the righteous, he's righteous in his judgment. He will accurately be able to judge them, know their whole life, what in their heart, know if they were willing, if they were unwilling. Only God can judge all of that. So why don't you just leave that to God? Just let that. Now here's you. When God's going to come, he ain't going to judge you by what big mama and grandmama them knew. He's going to judge you. What did you know? What did you do? Did you pass up opportunities to do what was right, worrying about them? No, you've got to worry about yourself. Peter wanted to know whom did this apply to. One will be beaten with many stripes while the other is beaten few. What does this mean? What it means, your level of punishment will be determined by your privilege. What level of privilege did you have? To whom much is given, much is required. Peter wanted to know whom these parables applied to. Was this general application or was it special application? Jesus' answer was simple. It applied to any faithful servant to whom his master has given responsibility. Peter was like, was this just to us as the apostles, or is it to everybody? Jesus said it applies to everybody who's faithful. The key here is faithful. Whom does this apply to in this room? It applies to everyone. God has given each of us responsibilities, but I think he also made it clear to Peter that this also had some special application for him and the other apostles. The Lord had given them much, therefore much were required. So did Peter and his other 12 have more? They had more. Guess what did they have? They had Jesus. They had him for almost 3 years. So yeah, they're going to be required more because they had his teaching. They had that time with him. And what did they see? They saw miracles. They seen healings. They seen deliverance. They seen Jesus' teachings. Peter, James, and John saw what? The transfiguration that the other guys didn't see. And so that another time Jesus had him when he healed somebody. So yeah, Peter, it's gonna be more heavy on you, Peter, because you've seen more. You've had the privilege of being around the master where some of these people didn't have it. So yeah, it's gonna count a little heavier for you, Peter. So yeah, it is gonna count. But for everybody who's faithful, the Lord is gonna expect that because he's given us all that opportunity. So does this apply to us both in a general specific sense? Absolutely. God has given every one of us responsibilities to serve and to glorify him. God has also given every one of us great opportunities to be ready and to be prepared. And that's where we'll leave our lesson. He's given us opportunity. So don't let that opportunity pass you by to not be ready and to be prepared. He's made all the provisions. He's made heaven. He's given us the Christian life. If you can, he's also given you brothers and sisters. He's giving you the church. He's giving you elders. He's giving you ministers. He's giving you other people who are knowledgeable to help you get prepared. If you're not prepared, get with somebody and help yourself get prepared, because when he comes like a thief in the night, he's not going to take no excuses. When I gave you opportunities. Well, Lord, I couldn't get prepared. I gave you in a year, I gave you 52. This year is 52 Sundays. Next year is 53. I gave you 52 Sundays to be able to go. 52 weeks to be able to go. Sometimes opportunities. I gave you had God's word 24 hours a day. Because if you don't have the book, guess what you got? It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. You can get the word anywhere you need to get it. You can listen to it. I can drive in my car. I was driving here this morning listening to it. You can listen to it. You can read it. It's everywhere. No excuse. You got the responsibility. You got the privilege. Be ready. If you're not ready, whose fault is it? Yeah, that old song say, it'll be nobody's fault but mine. If I don't enter in, and with all that we've been given. All right, folks, thank you so much for this class. It's a good study. We'll have to continue this at another time. We'll get ready for our worship service in about 25 minutes or so. So this time, take your break and get ready for our service.